Hello and welcome to my review of the Space Marine Legion Cataphractii Terminator squad for Warhammer the Horus Heresy from Games Workshop. One of these sets of 10 Cataphractii Terminators will cost you £52.50, and it's the same price as the Tartarus Terminator squad that's also in plastic. Believe it or not, these Terminators in Cataphractii armour first debuted in 2015. Yes, over 7 years ago now. It's crazy how time has passed in the hobby. They were in the Betrayal at Calth box set, if you can remember, and then they were released separately in a box of 5. And then recently, back in kind of June, July time, they were released in their own separate box set of 10 for the £52.50. Now, when you consider that 5 normal Terminators for, Warhammer 40,000 costs about £36 or so, £52.50 isn't too bad. It's certainly not £70, is it? And then you couple that with the fact that they can be used in Warhammer 40,000 as well. Pretty decent. So the format of this review, I will be looking at these miniatures up close, giving you my thoughts on their detail and how easy they are to build. Then I'll be running through some size comparisons because the spare parts are, hidden away somewhere. And then finally, I'll be going through all of their rules using the Liber Astartes Loyalist Legiones Astartes Army book. The rules in there are the same as the ones in the Traitor Army book. So the first thing you'll probably notice, there are some with chain fists, some with lightning claws, a couple with power swords, grenade harnesses, even one with a heavy weapon, and that's intentional. You can build these, they come with enough parts to have them all equipped with lightning claws or all equipped with the storm bolters and the chain fists. It really is up to you, and there are no limitations, at least in Horus Heresy, where all of the miniatures have to be equipped with the same weapon. Any model can exchange their storm bolters, or combi bolters they're called now, with a single lightning claw if you so wish. So there's lots of customization options, and there's a fair amount of posability. Of course, if you're getting the 10, there's going to be 5 of them that share their legs, at least, with their twin. So here's just one, for example. You can see this. So they have the same leg pose, however, different torsos and different torso poses. So although they share the same, legs, everything else can be different. Their helmets can be different, the arm poses, the weapons. There's a lot of customization in these, which you're probably not that used to coming from the Mark 6 Tactical Support box set. So that's great in this set, and that is mirrored in the Tartarus set. There's a fair amount of detail on these. They're not too small as well. Of course, they're not as big as we wished or hoped. I will go through some size comparisons with the other marks in a moment. I completely agree, they should be bigger, but if you look at it from sort of 7 years ago, way before Primaris or anything like that, they were similar sort of size to the Indomitus pattern Terminators. But yeah, I completely agree with anyone that thinks that these should be bigger and bulkier. They do seem small, but again, not as small as the Tartarus. Tartarus should be smaller though. It's a faster, lighter frame of tactical dreadnought armour. So yeah, I've equipped these in a multiple of poses with the combi bolters. I think in 40k they're called storm bolters, with the chain fists as well. There's even one with a heavy flamer. That's my other gripe, is I think you only get this heavy weapon, it's just a heavy flamer, whereas in the Tartarus set you get the Reaper autocannon. I don't even think you get a plasma blaster in this set. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but if there certainly was one, well, I didn't use it. I'm not sure why they would bundle the plasma blaster in with the Forge World upgrade sprue if it was already included in this. It looks exactly like this, and my video tomorrow will go through the unboxing and review of some of the Forge World upgrade sprue weapons for this particular set. So if you're after more variety than just the lightning claws, a heavy flamer and some combi bolters, then picking up this particular upgrade set from Forge World is the way to go. And there's enough parts there to customize, you know, nearly all 10 of your Cataphractii Terminators if you wish. This one's equipped with a plasma blaster, excellent weapon. You know, you have one of those instead of a heavy flamer or the Reaper autocannon. This one I've given them a power mace and a combi plasma. So Dark Angels, I'm going for the combi plasma and, you know, plasma theme as well as Volkite. But I just thought I'd introduce those into this video because that's the video for tomorrow. Potential options that you have. In terms of putting these together, they're fine. I know some people will have issues with the shoulders because the Cataphractii, you know, the armor plates here. This is probably like the hardest bit of the whole set, is that there's an arm with a weapon, and then this particular armor plate is separate to this one. So there's like 3 pieces there. You kind of have to line up well. And yes, you know, the shoulders are kind of the same height, if not higher than the head. So, you know, it's almost like, well, where are the shoulders in the Terminator? But I am nitpicking in terms of that. But that's probably the hardest bit. But it's, you know, it could be worse. It could be, you know, Mark III power plants or Mark VI, you know, studded shoulder pauldrons that you have issues with. So each kind of Horus Heresy kit has its own little quirk. And that's it for me looking at the miniatures themselves. I really do like the lightning claws, very kind of Horus inspired, I want to say. Each one has its own, like, each finger has its own like claw. I know that the hand is in there and it's just doing that, but it kind of lends itself very well to like a extension of these claws individual. Certainly better than the lightning claws of the Tartarus, which in my eye look just like power fists with some blades attached on the outer frame. So on to some size comparisons then. I've already kind of shown you them next to some other Cataphractii. This is the Praetor, or you could have him as a Centurion if you wished. This one's armed with a combi melter and a chain fist. Chain fist, again, looks very similar to the others. He's in a bit more, I say, bespoke artificer armor. He lends himself very well. I think he was included in the Betrayal at Calth set as the Praetor, but very similar height, probably a little bit taller, a bit more of a presence, same Terminator size base. But yeah, if you've got him anywhere, I think he was also released in the Imperium magazine or the Conquest magazine, he'll go excellently well. So this way you've got one big unit of 10 Cataphractii Terminators with a Praetor or a Consul, or you've got 2 smaller units of 5 with a Praetor. So that's quite a, you know, decent size force already, just getting this one box set. Compared to other marks of Terminator armor, I think I already alluded to a Tartarus. So this is how the Tartarus sort of measures up. Hopefully you can see that. Tartarus are a little bit smaller, they're not as chunky, they're thinner. Not the best pose for the autocannon for me. It might have been better if I aimed his torso kind of that way, but yeah, it's still quite a cool looking weapon. So that's that. And then with the Indomitus pattern, this is just a Dark Vengeance Terminator, a Deathwing Dark Angels one. Similar sort of height, but the Indomitus is just a bit bigger, a bit bulkier. So if you've got any 40k Terminators, they're going to be bigger than the Tartarus. Compared to the Cataphractii, very similar height and, you know, thickness. I'd probably say the Indomitus 40k one is as thick, but just rounder armor plates. So there you go. It is an odd one because Warhammer 40,000 Terminator armor has been very revered and in limited supply. This Crux Terminatus little symbol, rumoured to have a very, very small sliver shard of the Emperor's own armour in it. And then all of a sudden we had Cataphractii, Tartarus, Tactical Dreadnought armour just everywhere. So that's great in a way that we have different types of Terminator armour that don't have the Emperor's armour in there, because that does open itself up to getting Terminator armour for Primaris, if you're one of those people that want to see everything sort of migrate to a larger size. Compared to other Terminators that are in Cataphractii, I do have a Warhammer World exclusive Chaos Lord in Terminator armour. I'd probably say you could use this for 40k or Horus Heresy. I would use him as a Consul Diabolus in Terminator armour, but you could use him as a Praetor in Cataphractii armour. So he goes quite well with them, especially in like a, you know, Chaos Force. You know, he's got a lot of presence. He's summoning this demon thing. Maybe he doesn't really have control of it that much. Getting used to the psychic chaos powers and things. You've also got the Death Guard Praetor, who's chunky. You've got this older one, which is more of an Iron Hands type looking one. He's not Iron Hands, but he's just a Praetor or Consul in this Cataphractii plate. You know, there's a lot of synergy between these two. He's got this big thunder hammer as well. And he's got a combi Volkite that looks amazing, absolutely incredible. He'd make a good like Warpsmith type unit. As I say, we've got the Death Guard. The Death Guard is a big boy. His axe is, you know, 1.5 times taller, longer than an actual Terminator. But in terms of size, there's not much in it. But definitely the Death Guard has more presence. And it's just chunky. He's one of the chunkiest ones. And yeah, he would go well supporting them. The thing is with Forge World minis and resin minis in general is there's so much detail, so much 3D detail and things that it kind of detracts your focus away from the older, you know, not as much detail plastic minis. So whether that's a good thing or not is up to you. In a way it's great because it serves as a focus point. In a way it just, you know, shows those older plastic minis up, because you kind of think, well, I'd wish all of these would have such amazing detail. But we've also got the Dark Angels Praetor, one of the smallest ones in Cataphractii armour, and he is, you know, a little bit bigger, just a little bit. He's rocking the Volkite weapon there, and probably like a Titan greatsword or even a Calibanite blade. I'd probably give him a Titan greatsword though. And then I've also got an Ultramarines Praetor in Cataphractii armour too. So that is him. And he goes very, very well with these. Again, not quite sure about the Ultramarines axe. You know, would have liked a nice, decent Gladius sword or something, but either way, you know, if you wanted to use him with the combi melter, definitely goes hand in hand with this one, the plastic one, because they both have a combi melter, but the Ultramarines is rocking that power axe. So I hope that size comparison with other Terminator models has been useful. Let me just show you them next to other miniatures that you'll find on the battlefield. So I do have a Contemptor Dreadnought here, kind of like a Mortis pattern. That's where they stand. They don't really share much aesthetics with them. The Tartarus pattern was modelled after the Contemptor, so that's where you can see, you know, if you're going to be using Tartarus, then there's going to be more of a synergy, you know, with the aesthetics. But saying that, it makes the Tartarus look very small. You know, Mark IV is probably a good use of Space Marine Mark to go with Tartarus, because then, you know, it's not like you using Mark VI, which kind of make the Tartarus look small as well. If you use Mark IV, which is the smallest armour that I've come across, then at least those kind of infantry units are very similar. And the Contemptor is just going to be tall anyway. Next to a Leviathan, Leviathan absolutely dwarfs these, of course. Yeah, I'd probably say it works better with Tartarus too. It's a shame we don't have any kind of like Cataphractii type Leviathan Dreadnought. Maybe like an Iron Warrior one, or, well, the Dark Angels one right here is probably the closest you'd get, and that works very well with, you know, the Dark Angels Cataphractii, because of the kind of edges around the armour. You know, the knee armour and the chest plate and everything else that's going on, it just misses out on sort of like extra plates and things on the shoulders. If it had extra plates on the shoulders, it would go very well with Cataphractii. If you were looking for like dreadnoughts that complement the Cataphractii and vice versa. Speaking of different powered armoured Space Marines, just a quick interjection here. So these are the, so I would say Cataphractii go very well with iron armour, so the Mark III. Although iron armour Mark III, they are, you know, I say quite tall. They're as tall as the Mark VI, the Mark III, so you know, just bear that in mind, especially with their power plant that gives them a bit more height. These Cataphractii, as I said before, need to be just a little bit bigger, about that much taller and chunkier. But yeah, next to the Mark VIs, which you'll probably see, they don't really share many aesthetics. It kind of makes the Terminators look, again, a bit thinner than they should be, a bit smaller than they should be. Mark IVs, they don't really share any aesthetics, but at least size-wise, it kind of works better, I think. I would always say that Mark IVs go well with Tartarus if you're going for that like rounded armour look. And then with some of the vehicles you might see on the battlefield, so, you know, if you've got any troops, you're probably going to see a Rhino on the battlefield. You know, Terminators cannot embark into a Rhino, but that's where they stand next to one of those. You may find these Terminators, or any Terminators, in a Land Raider though. So that's where the Land Raider measures up. You know, you can open this a little bit without it, I mean, kind of watch your head if you're going for twin link las cannons. You're not going to be opening that door very far, but yeah, if you want to use them with a Land Raider, you know, that's where they sort of measure up. And then you're probably going to be using them from the set with the included Spartan tank, which is right here. And yes, I think you can fit all 10 of them in the Spartan, which is fantastic, and that is probably the best way to transport them and give them protection, because at the end of the day they're only equipped with those combi bolters and you might only have 1 or 2 special weapons in there, so giving them even more protection with a dedicated Spartan Land Raider is a great way to go. Final little size comparison I always like to make is just with the usual 40k miniatures. So I do have right here a Primaris Space Marine, Sly Marbo, and a normal Space Marine. So normal Space Marine 40k is a little bit shorter, so you won't really have any issues using them with your standard 40k Space Marine force. But Primaris are a fair bit taller, much more in proportion and things. You know, shoulders are at the right angle and things like that. But yes, that's where Primaris work with them. They don't, I don't think, they look very dissimilar. Maybe not even in the same force or the same game system, I don't know, but they just look too different. So if you're thinking about picking up some Cataphractii Terminators and using Primaris with them, they're going to look a bit odd, a bit out of place. Slight Marbo is actually up to the Gorget, really, of a Cataphractii too. Hope those size comparisons have helped. Pretty exhaustive today. I always like to make exhaustive size comparisons when Terminators are involved. So you've reached my part of the review where I will go through all of the rules for the Legion Terminator Cataphractii squad. You'll find them in the Elite section, which is a hotly contested section with the Tartarus Terminator squad, the Veterans, a Rapier battery, and even the iconic Contemptor Dreadnought, which many people would pick over a unit of these. So, what are you getting? Well, firstly, they will cost you 175 points, which is 25 points more than the Tartarus squad. And for those 175 points, you're only getting 5 Legion Cataphractii. So if you want 10, that's going to be your 350 points. Their stat line reads, they're a movement of 6 inches, weapon skill, ballistic skill, strength and toughness are all 4. They have 2 wounds, initiative 4, 2 attacks, leadership 7 and a save of 2+. The sergeant gets an extra attack at 3 and a better leadership at 8. That means that they are slower than the Tartarus at 7-inch movement, and also slower than your main battle line troops, you know, the tactical units. However, what they forgo in movement, they certainly make up in armour. Their Cataphractii Terminator armour gives them their 2+ normal save and a 4+ invulnerable. They consist of 4 Legion Cataphractii and 1 Cataphractii Sergeant. Their war gear is a combi bolter, a power weapon, and the Cataphractii Terminator armour. Their special rules, they have Legiones Astartes, Relentless, Inexorable, and Bulky. Relentless means they can move and fire their heavy weapons as if they were standing still, and Inexorable, they can ignore modifiers to leadership when making a morale check or pinning test. So they can't really be pinned. That's a decent thing to have compared to your normal tactical units. Dedicated transport. A Legion Terminator Cataphractii squad numbering no more than 5 models may take a Legion Land Raider Proteus carrier or Legion Dreadclaw drop pod as a dedicated transport. A unit of Legion Terminator Cataphractii numbering 5 or more models may select a Legion Land Raider Spartan as a dedicated transport. As a dedicated transport, this does not use an additional force organisation slot, but its points cost must be paid for as part of the army. Now, if you wanted to do that, you're really going to be upping the points cost of this unit, especially if you're going to take 10 of them. If you're taking 10 of them, that's 350 points. You're taking a Spartan, that's another 350. You're at 700 points just for 10 Cataphractii Terminators in a tank. That's a large point sink, and no doubt your enemy's unit of like 200 point 10-man las cannon team are going to have that in its sights to wipe out 700 points worth of models. No doubt. What's an interesting point to make right now is that these standard Terminators, and it's the same for the Tartarus squad, can take a Spartan as a dedicated transport, but don't be under false illusion that every kind of Legion's special Terminator unit can take a Spartan as a dedicated transport. They can't, so pay special attention to their description. The Death Shroud Terminators and the Grave Wardens can't take a Spartan as a dedicated transport, but yet the Dark Angels Knight Cenobian can. So have a look at your Legion's specific Terminator unit to see if they can take a Spartan. They have a number of options. Legion Terminator Cataphractii squad may include up to 5 additional Legion Cataphractii, plus 30 points per model. So don't feel like you're compelled to take 5 or 10. You can take 6, you can take 7, you're just adding an extra 30 points each. And if you do that, that will work out cheaper because you're only paying 150 extra points rather than 2 separate units of 175. One Legion Cataphractii may take a Legion Vexilla at 10 points, an Augury Scanner at 10 points, and Nuncio Vox at 10 points. For every 5 models in this unit, one Legion Cataphractii may exchange its combi bolter for one of the following: Heavy Flamer at 5 points, Reaper Autocannon at 15, Plasma Blaster at 10 points. As I said before, the only way of getting the Plasma Blaster at the moment is through Forge World's upgrade set. And I think it also includes a Reaper Autocannon for that matter, which I'll be employing on my second set of Cataphractii. Any model in the unit may exchange its combi bolter for one of the following: a Magna combi weapon at 10 points, Minor combi weapon at 5 points, and a Volkite Charger at 2 points. Any model in this unit may exchange its power weapon for one of the following: Power Fist at 10 points, Lightning Claw at 5 points, Chain Fist at 15 points, or a Thunder Hammer at 15. Any model in this unit may exchange both its combi bolter and power weapon for 2 Lightning Claws at 10 points per model, and the sergeant may take a grenade harness at 5 points. So there you go. Very decent unit, quite pricey. I can see certainly why players opt to go for a Contemptor Dreadnought. Contemptor Dreadnought is the same points cost, it's 175 points. I mean, if you go for like a Mortis pattern, then that does bump up the points to over 200. But looking at survivability, you know, the Contemptor Dreadnought has that atomantic deflector. It does have 6 wounds compared to a unit of 5's 10, and it does have a way better toughness at 7 and a better weapon skill and ballistic skill, and it's faster. So there's a lot going for the Contemptor Dreadnought. It's one of the reasons why you see it on the battlefield. But you can deep strike a Contemptor Dreadnought, and you can put a Dreadnought in a Mastodon. Or you could put 2 of them in a Mastodon, but you can't put a Dreadnought in a Land Raider. Well, not that I've seen anyway. So there is that added protection that you can give these, but you are paying an extra 350 points for it, or 220 points for a normal standard Land Raider. So what do you guys think of the Legion Terminators in Cataphractii Terminator armour? I think it's great that they brought them back. They are showing their age now though. At 7, they'll be 8 years old towards the end of this year. And definitely the Tartarus, it would have been nice to have a bit of a refresh, bit of an upgrade. They've got plenty of options, don't get me wrong, on both the kits, but it'd also be nice to see at least a plastic weapon upgrade set or something for them. If you would like to see me review the Tartarus Terminator unit, please do make your thoughts known in the comments below, and put down what you guys think of these as well. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor Protects.